for the club or the whoever you're speaking to. Um, Next in my chapter here, this is kind of a sales technique, which, so you have to use this when it feels appropriate and authentic, but give two positive choices when making your pitch. And so you may know in sales, you never ask a yes or no answer. So you want to buy it or not, because then it's so easy for them to go not.
Yeah, never
so
do
you
that.
you give two options, neither of which is saying no. And so again, you want to use this, sparingly or whenever it makes sense. But for instance, I've got a line here that say if you were talking to a program director or somebody at a radio station. So do you think this song would work better on Sarah's morning show or during Greg's new music show on Sunday night? So you're giving them two choices, neither one of which is not playing the song, and just see how they respond. Is that too? Do you find that to be too salesy or too obvious? Or
I personally like it, but you got to be careful with how you frame it, because you got to remember that a lot of these people, especially bar owners in particular, are being deluged by salespeople all the time. Right. So again, this is where the telephone is really a great way to get on a common ground with them, to take them away from the typical sales things. You can still use that as a tactic, but you got to be careful how you word it as not to sound too much like the Budweiser guy.
Yeah. Or just maybe offer suggestions, or hey, we'd love to come in and be part of your songwriter night on that because you're aware, you've done a little research and either what the venue or the station is up to. So maybe you make suggestions, even if it's just a single suggestion on how you can fit into their schedule.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, and a great example of that maybe too for like a band that's never played there before, more original type band might be to say something like, we fit in really good with your club, for instance. Do you think we'd fit in better as an opening act, or maybe putting us like on the bill, like on an off night? What do you think is best?
Right. Leaving it up to them instead of trying to force it down their throat.
Always.
I got one here I know that you're going to like. It's called Keep Plugging Away When You're on a Roll. So I know that sometimes when I've made a call and it went really well and I booked the gig, or I got an agreement for whatever it was, and I'll hang up the phone and I'll celebrate, and I'll walk around the house and go, woohoo! I'll call my friends and, hey, let's meet for lunch and celebrate, But and that's cool, but why not? While you got that enthusiasm, that confidence, make another call. Just keep plugging away while you're in that high energy state and feeling good. Make another one, another one.
Totally. I have sort of a formula for that, and I call it surfing the leads. Have we ever talked about?
I don't think so. I like this. I'm intrigued. Yeah. Surfing the leads.
Yeah, lead surfing. And what I do is I'll call somebody and I'll say, hey, blah, 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 you want to do a booking. If they do a booking, I'll say, thanks so much. And then my first question is, hey, do you have any other buddies? Or do you know any other venues that might be interested in our band? Maybe I should give them a call. And you got to remember, the person on the other end at this point in time is feeling really good about themselves because they just booked the band. They want to feel good about it. So if they have any ideas, they may reciprocate by giving you a name or a number. And then you just go to the next, you call them and say, hey, I just talked to Bob over at Bob's. And, he said that he's booking me on this date and he thought we might fit in there. What do you think? And then you just repeat it over and over and over again. And now with bars, it's a little difficult maybe to do that. Sometimes I have done it with other venues because a lot of these people are all kind of networked together. A lot of bar and tavern owners belong to like the state bar and tavern associations, and believe it or not, they know each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
Agents know each other. So, for instance, agents are territorial. Typically, if I talk to an agent about booking in Wisconsin, I'll say, hey, do you know somebody in Minnesota? Then I'll ask the guy in Minnesota, do you know somebody in Wyoming? Then I'll ask the Wyoming guy, do you know somebody in Colorado? And I can book my way all the way out to California that way by surfing the leads. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
By just asking for another one. In the world of kids music, I was booking, what are they called? Early learning centers, and they're like all in a system. So it's almost like a McDonald's of early learning centers. Like they have like 40 of them, and it's all like preschool things, And in one day, I did that exact same thing, and I booked 20 shows in one day. Literally, by when I got done with the one person, I say, "Thank you so much for the booking. Is there anybody else in your franchise, in your system, that might want to book me?" She'd give me a number, and then I call them, and then they booked like 20, 21 shows that day, just going from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. But here's an interesting advice I'd like to share with people: is the power user advice.
Oh.
If you get a no from somebody, unless they're being hostile or they're short on time, remember that. Like if they're just not interested and they seem a little bit rude or they seem short on time, don't do this. But if you ask them about booking you and they're sympathetic and they're saying, "No, we just don't have anything available at this time," I would still ask them and say, "Okay, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work out for us now. Hey, do you know anybody else that might be interested in booking us?" Because even when I get no's, I try to turn those into yeses with another phone call.
Yeah. Or you can say, "When should I contact you again for the
right?
Be a good time to get back to you?"
But more importantly, though, is I ask them, even if they don't book me, for a name or a number of another venue that I can drop their name. See, I've got you all choked up there, Bob.
I know I am. I'm like, "My God, it's brilliant."
Yeah, so I mean, and that actually works too, because sometimes, let's say when I'm surfing the leads, I get yes, 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 no. And at that no, that would be like, okay, well, I'm done now. But I've actually gone yes, 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 no. Wait a minute. Called Doug. Okay. Oh, Doug gave me yes, 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 yes. No. Okay, I'll call Sarah. No. Sarah said call Steve. Oh, Steve said yes, 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 yes. So even though I hit those no's, I still try to keep surfing the leads that day once I'm in the zone.
That's very cool.
That's me.
So I got surfing the leads. Let's coin that phrase, shall we?
Registered trademark.
So another one here I got is use a music marketing log to stay on track. So this is especially helpful if you're making multiple calls. And so if you're really going to do this, you may as well do it in quantity. So you'll be calling a number of people, whether that number is 10 or 15, 20, whatever, 50 people that you're reaching out to for various reasons. And so you're going to lose track of who did I talk to, how long has it been, because you want to have follow-up communications. And you can also, even though we're talking about the phone, you can combine phone connections with email. Maybe you start with an email, follow up with a phone call. You can bounce back and forth. But after a while, you want to know, how long? When did I email that or call that guy the first time and leave a message? Has it been too long? So things fall through the cracks. So I would keep some kind of log, however you want to keep it, digitally, on paper, whatever, that shows I contacted so and so on this date, and indicate if you've heard back from them, and have some sort of a plan for if a week later I'll try again. Now, I guess the timing will be different depending on the source, if it's a venue, if it's a media person, whatever. So do you, what do you think about this? Do you organize your calls in that way?
No. No, but I'll tell you, I have a friend that does, and he's brilliant at it. And this is pretty old school, and I'll give you some new school ideas too, or new wave, whatever you call them, current. But I have a friend of mine that has recipe card files. He has or index card files. He has 3 card files.
That is old school.
And in one, he has all the places that probably won't book him, or just book him every once in a while, once a year or something. In another card file, he has the places that are friendly that book him on a regular basis, and he has a third file. And what he does is every week or two or whatever, he goes through his one file of friendly places, and on the back of the cards, it says the last time he talked to them and the outcome. And if they want him to call him back, he puts him in the third file. And then, like every day or whatever, he just kind of goes through to see who he's supposed to call back. And once a month, he goes through the unfriendly file or the less likely to book file. But he has this third file he has all his callbacks on. Plus, he keeps a record of the last time he talked to people and whether or not they booked them, which is really cool, because sometimes too, when venues change owners, they do like to know if you've played there before. He says, "Oh yeah, well Bob booked me here, he booked me there, he booked me there. We just talked about it on the 28th." The more organized you are, the easier it is to get bookings. So that's the old school way. What I would recommend is using alerts, and when somebody says, "call me," this I do, is So if I call somebody today and they say, we're not booking now, but call me back on July 1st, then what I do is I put an alert in my reminder program, and it says, call Jack from this venue at 3:00. And then I get an alert that day, and I know I got to call him back. That way I don't forget, because that's something. And then what I do is periodically throughout the year, I go back, I keep it a spreadsheet, and it has all the bookings I've done, going way back to when I started Mr. Billy. So my spreadsheets go back to 2001, and I can see all the places I've played and how much they paid me and who the contact people were, and I periodically go back to those to revisit and reconnect with those people. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, and I guess like a little example that I use here in this in the chapter that I'm referencing is so there's one call, whether it's a voicemail or a live conversation you have with somebody. One call could be, hey Fred, I know we talked recently a week or two ago, and did you get my CD? I think I was supposed to. I can't remember if I mailed it to you. Could you let me know? So that's one option, as opposed to, hey Fred, it's just Phil here, or Bob, calling you back. We spoke a week ago Thursday, and I mailed a CD, press package to you on the this date. Just wanted to follow up, make sure you got it, see if you had any questions. So when you're really specific like that, you show up like a professional.
And you know what else? In this day and age, here's a really good reason to use the phone, guys. I just had this happen to me with a totally different. It wasn't booking, actually. It had to do with some financial stuff, where I sent somebody something like 3 weeks ago, and I haven't heard back from them, so I figured they weren't interested. And I just got an email from them yesterday, said, I'm so sorry that it ended up in my spam box. So sometimes I think what you need to do these days is follow up your emails with a phone call and literally say, hey, Bob, it's Billy. I just wanted to make sure you got the email I sent and make sure it didn't end up in your spam box. Let me know if you got it. Send me an email or give me a call back. Thanks, man.
Right. Well, follow up is, you just cannot in the chapter on publicity. That's why a huge thing that I emphasize, and never assume that not hearing back from somebody means they're not interested. It could mean that they're busy. It could mean that they like I got in the spam filter. So you need to follow up at least a couple of times before you give up and move on.
Also, let me tell you something else about the phone, and maybe I'm getting off the track here a little bit, but I think sometimes people, depending on the type of person you are, but sometimes people just like to hear somebody's voice, especially if you've created a relationship with them. And like, I know there was this one lady who booked me for really great shows for years and said she always looked forward to my phone calls because it cheered her up.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so I would call her like every 2 weeks, I would call her for no reason. Just say, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
There's something to be said for that too.
Yeah, and you don't.
Agenda.
You don't get that. You don't get that from an email or a text typically. You know what I mean? So again, just another reason to consider it. Just saying,
And that's why, even if you're not face to face, I mentioned it earlier, but the rapport thing is really important. So even the sound of your voice, if you're someone that they enjoy working with, I mean, that goes, you to be professional, dependable. But if you're also, if you lighten their day or they enjoy speaking with you, all the better. So. Pour on the charm, baby.
Yeah, man. There you go. What else you got, Bob?
Let's see here. Yeah, we probably should wrap it up here. We're getting close to half hour. But find out exactly what the person wants, and this has to do with like listening. So sometimes you can have tunnel vision, where I want to book this gig or I want to do this specific thing. Like with the media, you call in thinking that you're only wanting a review of your CD in that section, and little do you know that they're actually doing a feature story on bands that cover certain themes, but you're just so single-mindedly on this is the way to get in there that you don't sort of listen to them, or maybe even ask them questions. So ask the venue, what are they doing that's new or fresh, and just find out how there's an overlap between what they do, what they need, and how in a way that you can fulfill that in a realistic way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did I explain that correctly?
Yes, you did. You were brilliant, Bob.
Oh,
Absolutely
brilliant!
brilliant.
Yes. So that just goes with listening, and it's not all about talking. Here's my point. Here's what, but asking questions and being open, and they may reveal something in a quick conversation that so you're doing a songwriter night. Oh well, here's something that I can offer. But yeah, you have to legitimately be able to offer that thing that they're doing. But without listening and being open, you might miss that. You want me to go on to the next point here?
Yeah, please.
This will be the last one. I'm going to skip over a couple of them so one is take the blame when the person doesn't understand. So I know that can be frustrating, especially if you're calling a bar and there's stuff going on, there's background noise.